From Adam's house and Gina's house and Brian's house, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, from Bosch, Titus Welliver. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and Dave Damashek's here for good sports. And now, reminding you to stream No Safe Spaces while you're all trapped in your safe spaces. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. Amanda, get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Brian.
Cool.
Yeah. Sonny is coming back because him and Lynette are in charge of printing out bios and bringing them to me and things of that nature. And there was a miscommunication.
Producers.
Yeah, little miscommunication.
Oh. No.
They got a pretty full plate. So
Full Grubhub or
I
post.
was going to say a lunch.
So Sonny's on a walk and Lynette's on a drive. And so Sonny just called me and told him to double back. So we'll get to that. I was looking at Titus's bio online. Or I was looking at it, the email version of it. A lot of tragedy in that guy's life. Oh my God. I don't know if you guys have it in front of you, but we'll get to that. I imagine you guys are sent the bios as well, so you can probably access those. So tons of tragedy in his world. And speaking of bios, so here's a funny one. I'm looking around here. I'm trying to think. All right. So I'm interested in Kaylin's take on this, but I was, Kaylin puts together the bios, and I had interviewed Dennis Quaid, and his show is going to air on Monday. I did an hour with him. Very interesting guy. And I was looking down his bio, and I know a lot about Dennis Quaid and The Right Stuff and Any Given Sunday and Breaking Away, one of my favorites. And he's been in every single movie, but anyway. And I was just kind of looking down the stuff, and it's like he's got a band. Yeah, I knew that. He's a Houston Astros fan. I did not know that. He has a pilot's license. I found that interesting. And an avid golfer is down there somewhere as well. So we started talking. And
about your shared love of golf?
Shared love of golf. And, you know, I'm a big Astros fan. Sure. And at some point, about 45 minutes in, he'd been talking about faith and prayer and humanity and his faith in prayer and humanity and religion. It wasn't a religious conversation per se, but it was sort of faith-based in the climate of today. And then he said, I said, well, tell me about prayer. When has prayer worked? Or give me your experience with prayer. And he's like, well, you know, when my boy-girl twins almost died, that was a big deal. I mean, I think prayer played a big part of that. And I was like, you got boy-girl twins? And he's like, yeah. And I go, when were they born? And he's like, 07. And I'm like, oh, okay. I got boy-girl twins that are born in we both have boy-girl twins that are the same age.
About the same age. Yeah.
And yours almost died, very, very close to dying. Jesus. And I was thinking with Kaylin, I'm not sure what the process is, but I'd put that on my list. I feel like because I got the boy-girl. Well, even if I didn't have boy-girl twins, the fact that his boy-girl twins were clinging to life in the hospital. And then I started to remember that story. I don't know if you guys remember that story. No. It was all over the news for a period of time. And as I start talking about it, you'll go, oh yeah, they had vials. You guys know how I go absolutely bananas with ergonomics and labeling and why why are we so bad at it? Why does my goddamn car keys have a little closed lock and a little open lock, and it's not that are identical? So easy to hit the wrong one. And
it's all too clever by half, thanks to the designers. It's like the easiest way to do it should be obvious to everyone, and then it's like, no, let's tinker, let's make it ours, let's make it unique, let's make it whatever.
Right. Well, his kids, his twins, had a staph infection when they got them home from the hospital. And so they basically had to turn around and go right back to the hospital to be administered to because of this staph infection. The bottles of the blood thinning, anticoagulant, whatever, the vials, and this is where it reminded me, the vial for 10 units is blue. The vial for 10,000 units is a different shade of blue.
Oh, Jesus
No,
Christ.
sir. No, sir.
Some knives
yes,
out
ma'am.
It's a fucking knives out
That's
situation.
got to be orange or farther.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Or a
You
different
don't-
size.
You don't understand how much of this we do in our society. They then came in, administered the kids the 10,000 dose.
Wow.
The kids' blood turned to water,
Oh my
and
God.
blood was coming out of their navel and everywhere
Oh my
else.
God.
And then the kids basically were clinging to life for the next, several days and hours.
Jesus.
And but all I'm saying is it's one.
Oh,
is
you're
dark,
kidding me. We're looking
We're
at
looking
an
at it.
absurd picture.
That's the most ridiculous thing it's just 2 or 3 shades lighter than the other blue.
and one's 10,000 and the other's 10.
Oh my God.
What are we doing here? Like look, I'm back to push and pull. I don't even like that, but I mean, this is 10,000. And by the way, many kids have died this way. Because as Dennis was saying, and think about it, the people at the hospital, first thing they have is super long hours. Everyone is just burnt out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone says, yeah, okay, here you go. And they just hand it off from one person to the other. But
yeah, and you would think it would. You think that the people, the nurses or whoever, the medical professionals would be on top of their game enough. But human error happens, and it's our job to mitigate as much as possible.
And if only something could be done.
Yeah, there's so many easy solutions.
Well, again, for those of you who are all freaked out about what's going on and the death toll of COVID-19, there's well over 100,000 deaths in hospitals every year just for medical mistakes, just nothing intentional, just made a mistake. It's a blue bottle. One is blue, the other's another shade of blue. One is 10,000 units, the other's 10 units. And who amongst us couldn't make that mistake at any given time?
Yep.
All right. So, but Kaylin, why not on the why not on the bio? I mean, I think we could make some room in here for that story, which of course was super captivating in a macabre, bizarre way of getting called and coming. Oh, bizarrely didn't even get called, just showed up, and there was police tape in front of the door for the room that their kids were in.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
All right, Kaylin, what do you got? Is Kaylin there?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I honestly don't have a good answer for not putting it on there. Definitely should have put that one on there, and maybe instead of the golf fact.
Good answer.
Well, I am an avid golfer. I love golf. I was on the seniors tour for a while. My heart is broken
You
for
won't
the
shut up
pro.
about it, yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh, I got
pro-am
some
being
good golf
canceled
news for you later.
this year, but I would make it. I'd take the Houston Astros fan off.
I thought there might be a little Houston Astros cheating scandal.
There could be something there. You're right. Maybe the golf. We'll get the golf.
Okay.
The closest Corolla comes to golf is parking $1 million cars on Pebble Beach.
That's right. I walk that course every August, people. Drunk without a golf club.
That's right.
All right. We have a couple things. I am going out to do stand-up for the first time in a long time at the Laugh Factory. Yeah.
Define going out.
I get into my car. I go to the Laugh Factory. I park at the Laugh Factory.
So
I walk
far,
into the
checks out.
Laugh Factory. Evidently, there's no audience at the Laugh Factory. And then I do stand up and they stream it.
All right.
Cool.
So
A lot of
we got
A
that.
lot of people will be down with that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had some, I was going to get your input for stuff to talk about. Funny profiling is so weird, right? Like it's so, now I'm thinking about, because I'm wearing my jeans and my nice tennis shoes for the first time in a long time. And I had this moment where I did this thing with Garagos a couple of days back, and I put on blue jeans and I put on a blue short sleeve button up shirt. That's all. Just blue jeans, tennis shoes, and a short sleeve button up shirt. Oh, I wouldn't call it a dress shirt. And Natalia walked in and she went, hey, where were you? And I went, oh, I was doing my audiobook with Dawson. We're keeping a safe distance. And she goes, really? All dressed up? I thought,
Oh, that's an indictment of you.
That's the lipstick on your collar, man.
Yes.
right. It's an indictment of me.
Yeah.
True. It's also her profiling. Like,
Yeah.
is this a guy who putzes around in sweatpants and hoodies all the time and flip-flops? And just the fact that I was wearing blue jeans
Yeah.
was enough for her. And by the way, you know, I know we always talk about, hey, you can't judge and you can't profile. Yes, you can. She
Sure.
was doing exactly what I want her to do. I didn't like being on the losing end of it, but she had me nailed. There wasn't I couldn't talk about anything. She knows I don't put blue jeans on unless I'm filming something. So you got to profile people. But this is the notion that me wearing jeans and a short sleeve shirt was called all dressed up.
Look at you
Yeah.
all dolled up.
It's on a sliding scale, apparently.
Evidently.
Yeah.
All right. We have our guest, who's not our guest, Freddie Karsbo, I think you pronounce his name. He's owns a couple of restaurants in Sweden. And Max Zapata
Tell me you serve meatballs.
hustled him up. And
Lingonberry jam.
I want to know about, well, obviously, Sweden famously being one of the only places to not lock down. How's it going? What are the numbers like? You guys are kind of our canary in the coal mine in terms of how we should proceed. And God bless Sweden for those who might have a problem with what Sweden is doing. This is valuable information to the rest of the world moving forward and for the second wave or
Sure.
third wave. So God bless Sweden for what they're doing. And also, Sweden is not just letting everyone run amok. They're telling old people to stay home or people at risk to stay home and to social distance and so forth. Freddie, are you there or is Freddie there?
I'm here. Hi,
Oh,
guys.
good. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So how is it going in Sweden now? How are you guys faring?
It's probably a little bit early to say. If you compare to Norway and Denmark, we are higher in deaths at the moment. But the government are starting to talk about herd immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And the new cases are going down each day now. So we are at 1,300 deaths, and Norway are only 200. We're a little bit ahead.
Can we do this? Norway and Denmark combined are about the population of Sweden?
Yeah, so you could say that they are half the amount of deaths we are at the moment.
Right. So if you combine those two, Norway and Denmark, then you have a Sweden from a populace standpoint.
Yeah,
Kinda
we are
do
10
some
million
math.
and they are 5 million each.
Right.
And they are combined at almost 500 now.
Right. So
So-
they're less than half.
Yeah, and the big difference now is that they are in total lockdown, and we are not. So the question is, will it hit them hard when they start opening up again?
Well, I'm no scientist, but it seems like
Yeah,
if they're in
That
total
might be a problem.
lockdown and experiencing half the death, then you guys are not in any form of lockdown or a very marginal form of lockdown.
some kind of some restrictions.
If you said get hold of me in a year, I'd probably put my money on you guys. But there's also a lot of ancillary destruction that comes from lockdown, not just COVID-19 deaths. There's depression and suicide and abuse and drug abuse and all sorts of horrible stuff. So does it seem like the gamble is paying off or worth it? And how do most Swedes feel about it?
There's a big debate in Sweden about this. A lot of people are for, and also a lot of people are against it. So it's a big debate, not only from the outside countries, also inside Sweden.
Right. And where do you come down?
I am very hopeful that this is the correct strategy. As I said before, the government are talking now. Our version of Fauci, is it called Fauci?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr.
Or-
Fauci.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, our version of that is Anders Tegnell, and he talked today about we are almost now going towards herd immunity. So that's when most of the population has already got it. and are past it.
Has he tested for that? Has Sweden tested? Do they know? I mean, obviously he's not just throwing it out there, but I mean, he's basing it on a lot
That's
of tests.
the goal. We don't do, in Sweden, we only do tests on people that are in risk groups and also people that work in healthcare. So we only do the corona tests. We don't do the antibody tests yet. That's the next step, hopefully, to get some data, some statistics on that. But the reason for him saying that is that the new cases are going down now after Easter. So comparing to last week, we have less and less cases now. And that might be a sign that people are becoming immune. That's the hope, at least.
How closely, and this is just anecdotal, but I was talking to Dr. Drew about this, and he was driving into Fox yesterday about 4 in the afternoon. And I was just talking to him on the phone, and he said, man, I'm driving past a park and they're playing soccer and they're playing softball. And I started saying, yeah, I started seeing more people. Thank you, Sonny. I started seeing more people outside. Like, and the weather was fantastic yesterday, so that's a lot to do with it. But anecdotally, like more people walking, a few less masks I've seen. Like I think people are starting to drift out a little bit and get back to it, whether it's official or not. What have you noticed in terms of compliance? Have people been social distancing? Have they been keeping the 6 foot or 2 meter rule? They've been wearing masks. Are they wearing masks?
I haven't seen a single mask yet.
No mask.
Wow.
No, not a single mask.
Interesting.
Some gloves. Maybe in Stockholm. I live in the south of Sweden, quite close to where that other guy called in from, Lund, the American down there.
Right.
And in the city I live, we're only 80,000. So it's a small city. Up in Stockholm, they have a much bigger problem than we have down here.
Right. But
nothing like that. So it's Stockholm. 800 of those 1,300 deaths we have in Sweden are in Stockholm.
What is it? You own a couple of restaurants?
Yeah.
And
I do.
How does the business work for your restaurant during this period?
It depends a lot on the weather. As you said, when it's sunny and nice weather, people would like to go outside, and it's the same here. The outside area of my biggest restaurant is, on a sunny day, it's full. So it has a lot to do with the weather at the moment.
But mentioning the weather instead of any ordinances or restrictions, you don't have to only seat people 6 feet apart or anything like that. Yeah, people are.
We
still
have some restrictions. We can't have a tight line, like a long line, for ordering and stuff like that. So we have to keep that apart a little bit. Also, not too close with the tables and stuff like that, but. Also, nightclubs and bars have a restriction now that they can't order in the bar. You have to be seated to take your order. You can't have dance floors, stuff like that. So there's some restrictions, but nothing is closed. Everything is open.
Wow.
Everything is open, but you have to follow some guidelines to what's okay.
Do they have a date, or do you have a date just from being there and having your eyes open, that you think will be fairly definitive in terms of, okay, now we're on the other side of this thing and the worst is behind us, or are we there now?
Today they talked a lot about that the peak were last week, but they want to keep these restrictions for a while longer, just to be sure that we don't peak again. The herd immunity, like the big immunity thing, they're talking about May. So that's probably a little bit too. May, June, hopefully.
I'd like to have a sociological kind of discussion, which is, you said part of the population is for it and part of the population is against it. and that's bound to happen on anything that's controversial and has to do with health. First off, if you could give it a percentage, what would you say? Who's for it and who's against it?
Almost every person I meet daily are for it, but when you read the comments online, then there's a lot of negativity.
What?
So it
there's a loud vocal minority who forces their opinion on everyone.
This is online in the comment section. Okay,
so
interesting.
Well, so that's what I want to know. I want to know if like Swedes can be as big a douchebags as Americans, because I said I was doing an interview earlier today, and I said because of social media, we can go from a herd to a mob in 2.6 seconds. And we're able as Americans to convert from herd to mob fast. Like we go from group of people to super angry douchebags.
We mobilize.
We mobilize. Same here. Our Fauci version, Anders Tegnell, he seems to be statistically driven, no emotions involved. And the amount of shit it has taken for this strategy from Trump. Right. He's stood for belief about this is the right way to go, and that's incredible to be able to take that that amount of harassment, if you want to say so.
It's funny because I was literally, as I said, I was talking to Drew yesterday, and he's taken a ton of shit for some of his positions on this. I take a ton of shit for some of my positions on it. And then I said, Drew, you're a good guy who is sharing your experience and sharing your thoughts. And you want what's best for everyone, obviously, just like I want what's best for everyone, obviously. We're approaching it differently than a lot of people are, but obviously we want what's best for everybody. What's in it for us? And then I said, Drew, do you own a fucking amusement park? Like, what's in it for you?
The game.
Keep it going.
And he started laughing because it's like, of course, he doesn't own an amusement park. He goes to work. He does what he does. He does his podcast. He is losing a popularity contest and gaining nothing. This notion of like, oh, well, you're going to go to Fox News and chase a nickel or something. They don't pay you. No, I mean, you don't get anything out of this for having unpopular opinions. You just read a bunch of shitty tweets. Like, if you're going to accuse someone of being nefarious, and you should, if you're looking at the NBA's relationship with China, put your jeweler's loop in and try to figure out how Nike is involved with this or whatever. But Dr. Drew doesn't benefit from this. So please give him a break. Sorry, but Freddie, do you think Swedes are equally as bad as Americans in this department? And I don't know if you have a way to measure that, but your gut.
You're so many, so it's probably much worse, of course.
Pound for pound.
Yeah.
Liter for liter.
Yeah, but he has taken a lot of heat, definitely. But he stood firm, and he doesn't do the popular thing like our neighboring countries. But we'll see in the long term. There's a lot of talk about Norway and Denmark getting a lot of this in the fall again. And
here too.
I hope not, of course, but that seems quite likely.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, that leads me to my question, Freddie. I suppose I could look it up, but do you know if Sweden has flattened the curve, so to speak? Like, are the deaths fewer than they expected at this point, or is it more or less online, or are they looking in the right direction? Do you know how it's going?
It seems like it has flattened after Easter. They say it peaked last week. We have around 80 per day now. But last week, when it was on peak, we had 700 tested per day that were positive. Now we have 400 per day. That's tested positive, not deaths tested.
Yeah.
But as I said before, we only test people that need care, not that are self-quarantine at home and stuff like that. So we test a very small group. But if you look at that statistics, it seems like it's going down. But
That's
It's
why I'm
probably too early to say.
But Brian, I want to double down on
What's that?
a part of the question I thought was interesting, which is it lower or higher than they had anticipated, or do you know?
Right.
They didn't. I've never seen any anticipation. Like they have never talked about how many deaths. Only that it would be in the thousands.
Oh, really? Because we
No.
were like, however, what we did in America is we looked up at the McDonald's sign and went, oh, 700 billion.
20
That
billion.
seems like a good number. And
No,
then we
they-
just
they-
put that out there.
They have never gone public with a number
wow.
like that. So that's not what I've seen, because I check the news a lot because of my interest in the business. If you're getting shut down and so on,
Sure.
and if we get, and obviously we get some relief from the government now. We pay a lot of tax, so we have some tax relief and some rent relief and stuff like that.
But one
Last
thing that
question, Gina Grass.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
confused, and you may not have this answer. We're trying to put you in the expert chair, so God love you. But when you say that they think they're sort of hurtling toward herd immunity, how could they
Yeah.
know if you're only testing a fraction of the most vulnerable population? I'm curious about that for our country as well.
The argument for that is that they see a downward number each day now with people that get infected.
With that little
that's
cross section of
Yeah, but
No,
as I
not
said,
that
it's
little.
probably too early to say. But the problem now in the last few weeks has been that it has gone into the retirement homes.
right.
So that's
here too.
where the deaths come from.
Right.
But I don't.
Stockholm, half of those deaths in Stockholm are from the retirement homes.
I don't want to.
and
Oh, sorry.
Also
go ahead.
from foreign born. The information were probably not as good as it should have been in the beginning in other languages.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people from Somalia, Iraq, and other countries, they live kind of like they do. They live like they do in Italy. They live with their.
Oh, right.
And so the message didn't get over there in the same timeline.
There's some question about that, yes, and also that they live. Swedes don't like living together.
Yeah.
We never live with our parents and stuff
Oh.
like that, and we don't like. Yeah, we don't meet our grandparents a lot.
Now listen.
And it's positive in this sense, not otherwise. But
Look,
at this time, it's a
IKEA-
good thing.
IKEA explains it all. It's like, if I need cheap furniture, I got to get out of this fucking house.
Yeah.
I can't live with my mom and my dad anymore.
Yeah. So we never live over the generations.
No, and I
some
think what Gina was saying, but it may have been a little incorrect. I think it's not a sliver or a small section. I think what Freddie's saying is that if the infections are going down and no one's quarantined, then their immunity is going
Yeah.
up. I think
Right.
so. It's
I
a
was
large
referring-
group, and we don't have that data because we're locked down. So
Right.
we don't
I was referring
exactly
to
know.
the testing. So
Right.
yeah, two different things.
Right, but that's
Yeah.
pretty definitive. If
Yeah.
nobody's on lockdown and the
And it's
number
going
of
down.
people
Sure.
keeps going down, then okay, good for us. Hey,
It's
and
people,
good for you.
people over 70 are told to be home, but they have they don't have to. They can go out. I still have a lot of customers that are around 80 that come
Oh.
a few times a week, but they say whatever. They're
Do you
like,
make any provisions for them, like wait in your car or wait outside and we'll bring it to you, or they're not worried about that?
We offer it, but no one has accepted it.
Wow.
Thank you, Freddie, for that
Thank you.
update. You're very sober and reliable source, and Le Croissant
I only go by the statistics on the
is the
from the
yeah, no,
experts.
just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah.
So we'll check back with you maybe in a week's time and just see where we're at, because I think there's going to be a lot to be learned very quickly from Sweden. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Titus Welliver is going to be up next. Yeah, God, I'm looking at his bio. First off, the Doors. I forgot about the Doors.
Yeah,
just
speaking of which.
We're just talking about the Town and how much we love the Town the other day. But the Doors, I'm trying to remember his role in the
Let's see.
Doors. You can look that up. But you want to talk about tragedy. Older
Oh.
brother died of muscular dystrophy. Younger brother was killed in Thailand. What
Yeah,
that
it's
was
messed up.
about. Fourth wife died of breast cancer. Younger sister died as an infant. Stepmom died of infection 6 months later. By the way, Kaylin, you have made up for it in the macabre department on this bio. Not a lot of loves to play unlimited arc softball. Not a lot of that on this one.
He does play harmonica as a hobby, so
he does play harmonica as a hobby. But I mean, whatever you were missing from the Dennis Quaid bio, you came back. The Grim Reaper made a real appearance on the second one.
You know, I just put in his name and the Doors, and literally just the words "Mason Cop" comes up. So I'm wondering if that was in the big, in the scene where he got arrested on stage
in Florida.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk to Titus. Always a favorite. In a second. First, I'll hit Omaha Steaks. Are you stuck in? Yes, we are stuck in. How about you get some great steaks and delivered right to your door? Huge variety of family favorites. And you don't have to go anywhere for a limited time. They got a stock-up sale. Just for my listeners, go to omahasteaks.com. That's omahasteaks.com. Enter Adam into the search bar and unlock unique savings. Just for my listeners, this stuff is great. It's high quality. It's protein. The stores are running out of stuff, but you got to stand in line. Omaha's bringing it right to your door. I'm going to get Olga on a recipe. Omaha, if you go to their website, has a ton of recipes on there, and I'm going to have her make me something delectable. Max Pato, what am I gonna make her?
I mean, everybody knows Omaha has the greatest steaks. They have all the cuts, but if you look at their website, they also have a lot of seafood options.
Ooh.
So we have like a wild salmon fillet with grilled pineapple and chipotle salsa that looks phenomenal.
Done. All right.
Great pictures.
I'll report to you tomorrow about how much I'm enjoying that. They got a variety of ready to ship boxes, and they're available now. Enter Adam at the search bar and save over 50% and get free shipping on orders over $69. Right, Dawson?
We love Omaha Steaks and our fans so much that we're giving away 10 boxes to the first 10 people who tweet in a picture of their Omaha Steaks receipt using the code ADAM so that you can gift a box to family or friends completely on us. That's right. Tweet a picture of your receipt using the code ADAM, and the Ace Man himself will send your loved ones an entire box of premium Omaha Steaks. Again, never been a better time to stock up on Omaha Steaks. Stock up sale going on right now with ready-to-ship packages. Save 50% or more, plus free shipping on orders of $69 or more. That's omahasteaks.com. Type ADAM in the search bar.
All right, let's take a quick break. Titus Welliver right after this.
All right, bringing Titus in.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hello. Wanted to see if they're finally going to get rid of blowing on birthday cakes with this spreading viruses thing going around. Anyways, thank you for the show. Have a good one.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Yeah, if you watch my, first or second, I think my second appearance on Letterman, I did a whole bit about blowing on birthday cakes, which will probably be relevant today. Titus Welliver's with us. Bosch, of course, season 6 available now on Amazon Prime Video. And it's Amazon's longest running series, by the way. So congratulations and good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you, man. How are you? You look
well. Where are you at?
I'm in my house. I know I look like I'm incarcerated. That's just the outfit. I am incarcerated like everybody else. Yeah, I'm in Venice.
You're in Venice?
Yeah, it's like zombie town. Weird Raccoon City, Resident Evil.
Well, I just thought of it. There's going to be a ton of movies that come out of this. Is the theme, right? There's going to be comedies. There's going to be a bunch of stuff that comes out of this. I was first off, The Doors. What was your part in The Doors?
I played this cop in New Haven, and Morrison, Val Kilmer, and Kathleen Quinlan are getting ready to get it on backstage at a concert in New Haven. And my character, who's a New Haven cop, sort of says, "Hey, you can't be in here." He doesn't know he's with the band. And Morrison leaps at him, and I mace him in the face. And originally I had like 4 other scenes where we also arrested him and then brought him to the police station and kind of slapped him around in a jail cell. And I think my the title was I was macing cop.
Right.
Oh, now it comes. Yeah, we saw that, and I don't think I've put it together with like Mace.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking of Perry Mason or something, but I remember that scene clearly. He was backstage, and you roughed him up because you didn't know he was in the band. I remember that perfectly now.
He was working with concrete. He was a mason cop.
Yeah.
One of the Freemasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, The Town, we know that role, and all the other movies, Gone, Baby, Gone. So I was looking at your bio, and I saw all this tragedy here about your older brother and a younger brother killed in Thailand, and
Yeah.
I didn't know much about that. Are you able to speak about that?
Yeah, I am. I mean, it's a part of who I am, and I lost an infant sister to sudden infant death syndrome, crib death, and also lost my wife, the mother of my 14-year-old daughter.
Was that your fourth wife?
8 years ago.
Is that your fourth wife?
It's
Sorry.
kind of that's a little bit murky because I did get married early on when I was quite young, and those things were sort of annulled. So I sort of technically would say I was married to the mother of my two sons, and then I remarried the mother of my daughter. She passed away, and then I got remarried and recently divorced from that relationship.
You're kind of like Shaft in that you're complicated, but you're not like Shaft in that nobody understands you but your lady.
Yeah.
I think your ladies may be confused.
Nobody understands them, especially as ladies.
This is the second
Titus.
fucking time today that I've been asked about my marital history.
All right, well, I'm sorry. I'm reading a bio and it says fourth wife, and you don't seem like you were married to Liz Taylor. That's all.
No.
That's all I can think of.
I think this is. I think somebody at Sirius is connected with my ex, and they've come up with as if this is going to derail me and humiliate me. I look. I'm an incurable romantic, and I wear that.
Well, let's turn the page and speak about the tragedy of your brother killed in Thailand. How did that work out?
Well, it was sort of a botched robbery attempt. My brother was living there. He was a photographer and had been working in his darkroom all day in Chiang Mai. Went down to have a beer in a local bar. These guys sort of spotted him as an American. They were sort of street thug gang guys. And when he went to the restroom, they dumped heroin in his beer. Unbeknownst, he came back, drank the beer, and was allergic to heroin and went into anaphylactic shock. 21 years old, died.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it just my father. I mean, imagine that. One should never outlive one child, but certainly not three. And I think that was just, and also my stepmother, who was the love of his life, had passed away 7 months after my infant sister died. So yeah, I mean, it was a hammer. It took me, I never, to this day, I still don't understand how my father was able to navigate life after any of that, but he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's once you have kids, it's kind of unimaginable when this kind of stuff happens, and to happen times three, and your wife, love of your life, in a shortish period of time, or certainly with the daughter and the wife, it's unimaginable. But on the other hand, I don't know, maybe after you lose two kids, the pain can't get any worse. Or maybe after you lose one kid, the pain can't get any worse. Like maybe you just hit the rev limiter in pain. I don't know. Was your dad able to go on after that and like lead a constructive life?
Completely. He said at one point that the only thing that sort of kept him alive was the fact that he still, of course, had living children, but that he also had his work as a painter, and he said he would paint. And I recall specifically after my younger brother Eli, when he was the one killed in Thailand when he was 21, that my dad painted up in an area of Maine called the Allagash. It's right on the Canadian border, and there had just been a massive forest fire there 7-8 months prior to. and he went up there and painted the sort of aftermath of this. And what was interesting about it was that there was all these, these charred trees and everything, but within, at the bottom of those things were new life, leaves and grass and things that were growing. And he said that was for him sort of a way to try to work through his pain, although he said, I'll never live long enough to assuage my anger and my sadness, understandably so. But no, he did devolve into serious chronic alcoholism, though, later in life, which I completely understand. The not being able to navigate that kind of pain and needing something to be able to he'd sort of drink himself to sleep.
Date.
Your dad was, first off, you can make a living as a landscape artist.
Yeah, he made a very good living, and he was also an academic. He ran the Graduate School of Fine Arts at Yale and at University of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So he had a really interesting career and a tremendous amount of success as a painter. I mean, he was dubbed the Dean of American Landscape Painting. So he was an abstract expressionist.
Wow. It's so funny because when you see the artist thing, especially the fine artist, I mean, the painter, it can go so many different directions, but it's usually, well, he didn't really make his money doing the painting. He did landscaping.
Right.
That's what paid the bills. But once in a while, he'd paint one of the rocks he was moving, and that was fun. But you don't hear about guys being really successful doing painting of any kind, but especially landscapes. I mean, that's an interesting thing to have a very strong artist hand dealt to you, but also a pragmatic hand. Like there's some part of him that couldn't have been all artists. He had to figure out how to sell things and bring things to market and build a business for himself. Was he did he wear two hats?
No, he was represented by some of the biggest and best galleries in the world, and his work is in major collections and museums, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and places like that. So he really, I don't know if it was necessarily right place or the right time, because it was just coming out of the abstract movement, and then he started to do figurative work, which were nudes and landscapes, and then eventually eliminated the nudes altogether and just focused on the landscapes.
Adam, there is a 28-minute documentary on Titus's dad that is streaming on the Maine PBS, Maine, like the state of Maine PBS. And you can get to it if you link to it from Titus's Wikipedia to his dad's Wikipedia, and there's an external link there. So I'll be checking this out. There's a 28-minute documentary on the man.
And I must say your dad was really serious about painting landscapes, because normally when you go, I'm going to do landscapes, I'm going to enter some nude college-age girls into it, and then at some point one of them has to go. Yeah. Most of the time it's the landscape that goes, and it's really cold outside and some of the gals are complaining, so we just moved it down to my basement. I did put a barrel bolt on the door because there's been a lot of disruption. But your dad was so pure and so true to his craft that he actually removed the pussy from the paintings. Yeah, most people triple down on pussy.
I know. But I got to say, as a little kid, so my friends, because my dad had nude models that would be in his studio, and he had a big canvas awning inside. And so I saw naked women in his studio all the time. And I would then go to a friend's house and they'd say, hey, you want to see this magazine my dad has? And they'd break out, Playboy or something. And it'd be sort of no reaction. I'd go, okay, yeah.
Same thing in my living room.
Very confusing. I went, yeah, you should be at my house, man.
Titus is like, yeah, that's sweet, kid. Nice areolas. I get it. I got to get back home and eat some Hot Pockets and check out the show.
The matinee starts half an hour.
Yeah, it's like you took Mario Andretti's kid over to your house and said, my dad just got a new Oldsmobile. Yeah, that's nice.
Good for him.
It's got a V8 engine in it. Oh, there you go. Wait, I got to get to the Indy 500. Well, it must have. Let's see what this did. So did this change your relationship with the female form? Because we all know, like, you know, when they do those studies, they go, do you know what state consumes the most stepmom themed porn? It's like Utah. Who could have guessed? You know what I mean? It's always Utah. And it's never some city in Europe, you know, where there's nude beaches, right? It's always you try to
It's not
push
Amsterdam.
it down and it pops up in some weird way. So for you, just sort of being around it, and again, it's like they do that thing where, like in France, they have a glass of wine with dinner. The teenage kids have a glass of wine, and then they don't buy it and run to the park and get blackout drunk. You know what I mean? Was there? How did it affect you?
I don't know that it necessarily lessened my perversity. I think I was still a pretty normal boy going through puberty and everything. I wasn't, you know, I didn't titter and laugh at a nude image. I had a different relationship to looking at paintings that would have a nude figure in it or something. It was not, you know, it didn't bust me out into giggles or anything like that. Whereas, you know, my contemporaries would lose their shit completely with any kind of, you know, imagery like that whatsoever. I can remember going on a school trip to the art museum in West Philadelphia, and there being some nude sculptures, and every single, you know, boy in my class was losing their shit, and I'm standing there just kind of looking at it, taking it in. I just had a different relationship to it, but I was also chasing girls around the playground and trying to kiss them.
So let's try to figure this out. I can't draw very well. I know guys who can draw pretty well. Jimmy Kimmel is a very good artist, and we talk about like what's hereditary or what's God-given, or, you know, musical ear and all that kind of stuff. Being able to draw seems very sort of passed down or God-given, or you either have it or you don't. And I don't have languages. I don't have musical instruments. I don't have drawing. But do you have drawing? Is that something? I mean, your dad was world class.
Yeah. Well, that was originally what I wanted to do, was to be a painter. And so I started studying with my dad when I was 12, formal training, which was pretty brutal. And then after a completely uneventful year at art school, I decided that it's not what I wanted to do. I mean, a lot of it was sort of, he cast a pretty long shadow, and I was sort of going constantly through this endless comparison to the work that I was doing as a young artist, and to my father. And it was kind of tiresome. And I'd always really, really been interested in acting. So I stepped away from it for almost 25 years. And then in kind of a dry period in my career as an actor, I started to draw and paint again. And now I show I recently had a show here in LA. I show my work and I sell my work. And they're also landscapes. Although if you look here behind me, those are some nudes that I did years ago.
Wow. Well, I want to talk about that. I find that interesting. And it's so bizarre living in your dad's shadow, or your dad casting a large shadow. I had the luxury of my dad's shadow was like a mop handle at high noon.
Yeah.
If you took a mop handle and you went out to the Mojave Desert, you planted it in the ground right at noon, not 10 afternoon and not 10 to noon, but when the sun was directly overhead, that I believe would have been about the cast of the shadow. Literally the circumference of the mop handle itself was the actual shadow. It was about a nickel size. So I never had to worry about that, which does bring its own set of problems, like no help on anything and no direction and no anything. Like a medium-sized shadow, I think, is what we're looking for out of Dad. Enough to get you some art supplies and a little bit of training, but don't worry, you'll do better than him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, you said it was brutal training under your dad or with your dad?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he just, even as graduate students, one time I had some work up at University of Pennsylvania, and he was going through the critiques, and one of the graduate students had sort of witnessed his critique of my work and said, "Boy, I thought we had it bad." And I said, "Well, I'm his son, so of course, But I was a little kid, and I mean, if anything, it was just hard. It wasn't that whole thing of that everything that I did was good. Well, my father said, if you really want to learn how to do this, then you need to man up and toughen up. And I think in a way, it kind of informed my ability to be able to deal with criticism as not only as a painter, but also as an actor, to also be able to either deflect or just absorb it and not be ruined by it, and remove certain components of my ego from things and to try to learn from it. Doesn't mean that that I always handled it perfectly, but it did toughen me up. And so ultimately, when I returned and started to paint again, I made the decision to go to my father, who was very much at that point, not in very good health. He still was pretty compos mentis, but I had to find a way. And I remember telling my youngest brother, John, that I was going to do that. And he said, "Are you out of your mind? Why would you do that? He's going to brutalize you." And actually, it was the polar opposite. I showed him the work, and he said that the paintings were beautiful and that I should never step away from it again. It didn't mean giving up as an actor, but that it was incumbent upon me to continue to paint. And that was, and that could have gone very much the other way. It would not have influenced my decision to paint or to stop painting again. It certainly helped getting his permission, for lack of a better word.
Well, so here's kind of the question. You may not be able to answer it, but maybe you can. Your dad was hard on you at the beginning. And at what age? How old were you approximately?
12.
12. Okay. So he was really hard on you, and he thought, well, this is a tough business, and if you're going to make it in this business, I'm going to have to be tough on you. But there's a point where you're too tough on somebody, and you discourage them altogether, and you leave a horrible taste in their mouth. And what could have been a good career in fine art painting wasn't, because he was too tough at the beginning. So it's a balancing act of kind of getting up to that line, but not crossing it. And maybe your dad crossed it, and maybe that discouraged you for, put you on hiatus for 30 years, or does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But it actually that wasn't really the impetus for me to not do it. What I realized, my dad asked me very pointedly after this sort of wasted year of art school, he said, "What is it that you want to do? What is it that, when you're not thinking about drinking beer and getting laid and snorting cocaine, do you think about painting?" And I said, "No." "Do you dream about painting?" "No." And then he said, "Then you shouldn't do it. Because if you don't have to do it, then you need to do something else. What is it that occupies your thoughts?" And I said, "Acting." And he went, "Then that's what you need to do."
Does your dad have any paintings that are worth millions of dollars somewhere in museums?
Not millions of dollars, but probably several $100,000.
Crazy.
We'll take it.
Do you have some of his paintings?
I have a few. My dad kind of really went off the rails towards the end of his life. He left his wife after 18 years of marriage to be with this woman, and kind of just flattened his life, and then was in a major decline physically and couldn't paint anymore. And then there was this divorce, and he remarried, and so his whole estate and all of his work was a complete shit show. So I have a few paintings and a few prints that he gave me when I was younger that I still have. And I only have one of his large paintings, because he did 9-foot by 6-foot paintings, the bigger images.
Wow.
And so I'm grateful to have those, which, I can give to my kids. I have one large painting, which is a portrait that he did of me when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Wow. We're looking at some of those.
Yeah, there's one there. That's my older brother Silas and our dog Nellie.
Red Slips.
Red Slips, and that's in the permanent collection at Vassar. I was about 4 or 5 when my dad did that, and those slippers were blue, and my father made them red, and I was absolutely fucking furious as a kid because I said red's a girl color, and he came back at me and said Superman's cape is red, and I said, but they're slippers, they're not a cape. I was pissed.
I think they call that a first world problem. Wow. I did not know that about your dad. And he sounds like a very complex guy with, and complex, not in a way where I'm trying to spackle over some horrible qualities, but some really good qualities and probably some really bad qualities, like most people, but especially artists. I mean, they just have more good and more bad, right?
Pretty much so. You would have enjoyed him. He was an extraordinarily funny guy, very, very bright, and a world-class ball buster. I mean, and he did not. I mean, he didn't care. He absolutely did not care who was in evidence. He spoke his mind. He farted in the White House one time when I was in 1976. He farted in front of Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter just smiled at him. And later on, I said, Dad, you farted in front of the president. And he said, he's just a guy, son.
Well, did your dad...
Wow.
I have this theory about people who really own a talent. Like they understand who they are and what they're capable of. And, you know, we all know you take something like acting. Acting's a little difficult in that sometimes it's hard to measure it. And you could say, I'd be right for this role, but the director'd go, I want that other guy. Or you could say, I'm a more talented actor than that person is. And they could go, well, who's to tell? Like, where's your acting scale? How do we figure out what percentage of you is pure actor? But your dad, his art was obviously more tangible. Like he had a market. He knew what he could do, and he owned it, you know. And I think it's that way for great craftspeople, Stradivarius or whoever. You make a great product, and people, that's not working for the post office. I mean, you don't have to watch what you say. You know what I mean? Your dad didn't have to watch what he said. No. It really couldn't be taken away from him because of his ability, his amazing ability. Do you think that underscored that or somehow fostered that in him?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I think that he, you know, and he used to always say to me, no matter where you find yourself or in the employ, it's always important for a man to enter his house justified. And I remember as a kid kind of thinking that was so sort of esoteric, and it sounded like a line from like a fucking Western or something like that. And it wasn't until I got older that I started to, that was kind of the key to who he was that right, wrong, or indifferent, you know, stay the course. And he was flawed. Look, believe me, he was a deeply flawed human being and had terrible demons and a really brutal childhood. But he was a guy who was capable of incredible love and extreme generosity. I mean, he would do things like when he was living in Maine, a guy who worked for him didn't come to work one day. He was kind of a hired hand. And my father eventually, the guy was never late. My dad drove down to his house, and there was the bank, and they were there to repossess this guy's house, which was, you know, it had been, for whatever reason, he hadn't been able to make his payments. And my father reached into his pocket, took out his checkbook, and he said, "What's the amount that's owed on the house?" And I don't remember, it doesn't come to mind, but it was a substantial amount of money, several thousand. And my dad just wrote the check and handed it to him. And he said, "You bring the deed back to this man this afternoon." And he said, "And by the way," and of course they knew my dad because it was the bank that my father banked at. And he said, oh, and step 2, I'll see you at the bank because I'm coming down to close every fucking account I have in your bank. And he did. And he
Wow.
Unbelievable.
I am
every penny out of that bank, and it was serious money for a little bank in Belfast, Maine. But he drew the line at that. He had a code, and he did things like that for people. And he donated the money to build the first library at the public school in this tiny little bird town of Lincolnville, Maine. He did a lot of things like that because he came from nothing. And so his generosity that way seemed to have no end.
I wonder, and I'm going to remember that story because it's moving, and I'm going to tell it to my son, except for I'm going to swap out your dad for me and whoever that guy was for my buddy Ozzy, because I'd like to imprint on him something positive.
Yeah.
But obviously I don't want to be out the cash.
About time.
Do you think it's easier? I'm not trying to minimize this, but your dad, he did what he loved, and he made good money doing something that he may have done for free. Do you think that made it easier for him to be generous with
Yes.
people around him?
But I think he also saw, because he came from a rural part of Pennsylvania where people were farmers and lumberjacks and artisans and things. He came from that kind of, really, really humble background. And there was a part of him that felt that he, when he saw people in need, he ran towards it. I mean, it was very much sort of like the attitude of a cop or a fireman. If someone needed help, he would go directly to it. And sometimes, I know that there were times when he loaned money to friends that were having a hard time, struggling artists, when he didn't really have it, knowing that he probably was never going to see it again.
Oh, yeah. Who are some celebrities, I don't know, who paint, who you appreciate? I mean, some are better than others, I'm sure. You seem, at least what I can see over your shoulder, seem pretty accomplished, and obviously you have the background for it, the pedigree for it. But I think guys like that, and you're like, look, God bless everyone who paints. I guess Leonard Nimoy used to paint and stuff like that. I guess Howard Stern paints, but I don't really know who's good or who's not good, and who am I to say? But in your more professional opinion, are there some celebrities whose work you like?
Yeah, you know what? Tony Bennett.
Really?
He's actually a good painter, and as is Gene Hackman is a really good painter. A really good painter. There was a book years ago called Actors as Artists, written by a late actor who was a friend of mine, Jim McMullen, and he put together this book, and it's actually Peter Falk too.
What about Dennis Hopper? Wasn't he sort of at least showing it some? Oh, okay.
He was a photographer, but I used to see Hopper around a lot because he collected art. And he was good friends with my godfather, Terry Southern, who wrote Easy Rider, and he was old friends with Hopper would be at my dad's openings. But yeah, Hopper had a substantial collection. Not, I don't know that it's in the range of Nicholson or Steve Martin, who both have crazy art collections. But yeah, Hopper was a really good photographer.
Do you those guys, those Steve Martins of the world? I mean, you can buy a painting for $100,000 and have it be worth $10 million in half your lifetime, no problemo. Does Steve Martin quietly have $100 million worth of paintings?
I don't know if it's that, but who did have a crazy collection, probably somewhere in that proximity, is Lars from Metallica.
Lars Ulrich?
Yeah. Crazy collection.
I always heard Stallone had a huge art collection.
Yeah, he does too, actually. And he might even have some of my dad's work, because I can remember him coming.
Oh.
My father showed at the Marlboro Gallery, which was in New York on West 57th Street, still is. And my father said, "Why don't you come to the gallery with me? Stallone's coming to look at some paintings today." And
wow. How old were you?
I was, Rocky. I think we were on around Rocky 3 at that point, and First Blood, and he he knows his art, and he doesn't just buy it by the yard as a kind of investment. He's actually, well informed, well educated, and has. I've not seen his collection, and I don't remember if he sort of said, absolutely, let me buy a landscape. I want you to do a portrait of Cuff and Link. But he's apparently got a crazy collection.
I think quietly, Byron Allen has a big time collection as well.
Really?
I was told that. Like, I remember Byron Allen is quietly a cajillionaire who does everything and you don't know about it.
Yeah, I just heard that recently and I went, what?
Yeah. Well, first off, Byron Allen, nicest guy in the world. That guy's been in show business since he was 14. Like, he was literally professional. He was on TV at like 14 and a half and hasn't been off. So he's been at it for a while. All right, Titus, let me give you a plug and we'll let you get on with your easel and applying of the gesso. Bosch, of course, season 6. It's available today on Amazon Prime Video, and also renewed for a 7th season. So we can talk when that comes around, or anytime you're in the mood to talk about something, Titus, because it's always fascinating.
It's always a pleasure to be here, man. And good for a good, strong laugh to hang out with you guys. Always fun. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Titus Welliver. Thanks, Titus. All right, let me hit Spa Finder. Is that right, Max Zapata?
That's right.
Should be the happy cards. Happy cards.
Right. But okay. Well, let me then pause, because we're writing Spa Finder on the thing.
Oh, it must have. Did that just get changed?
No, dude, it changed yesterday when this happened.
We did this yesterday, remember?
It does say Spa Finder on the rundown.
Yeah, that's what okay.
All right. Well, it doesn't matter. But let's just make a note of it, and then we won't have to get in.
Here we go.
Take a break, and we'll do it at the end.
I did ask the client about their gift certificates. We never got an answer on that, but we do.
Okay, but we need the happy card here, right?
Window of negligence.
All right. So is that you want me to just find it and lay it down now and tack it on to the end of this block?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. What's the next block? As long as I get up and grab it.
News.
Yeah. Right. Commercials, though.
DC, Manscaped, and Geico.
All right, let me just grab everything.
Titus is married to a gorgeous Dutch model named Jose.
Hmm?
Female model, much like
Jose, maybe.
Perhaps I don't know. Much like James King, the gorgeous model from.
Wait, I gotta see. Wait, didn't he just say he's getting in the middle of a divorce?
Happy cards. Mother's Day is coming up. Everyone, Happy Cards, the perfect way to make mom feel special. They have a limited edition Mother's Day card. Treat her to dinner, movie, spa, shopping spree, and more. One convenient card. We're going to get back to normal real fast, and when we do, we want to be prepared with Happy Cards. Brands like Cheesecake Factory, Macy's, Panera, Regal, Spa Finder, Ulta, Sally Beauty, Yankee Candle, all there. E-gift option, deliver straight to her inbox. Happy You card. Features P.F. Chang's, Macy's, Ulta, AMC, other great retailers. Let's get going. Mother's Day is right around the corner, or it could be for you. Get it for you. Get it for your sister. Get it for your wife or even friends. No fees, no stress. They never expire, so it's very convenient. Right, Dawson?
Enjoy free shipping on all Happy Cards orders by visiting giftcards.com/happy. Have a happy Mother's Day with Happy Cards. That's giftcards.com/happy.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Gina, Brian, and the news.
Break. viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
We'll start off with some sad news. Someone I know everyone on the show is a big fan of, Brian Dennehy. Big burly guy, starred in lots of films, First Blood, Tommy Boy, tons of TV series, many plays. He has died at the age of 81. This happened Wednesday night of what they're saying is natural causes in New Haven, Connecticut. This is according to his representatives at ICM. Brian Dennehy died.
Oh, yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, it was great. We pulled a clip, Galen or Gabe, somebody pulled this clip. I'm not familiar with this movie, but if you want to watch just what they said was just a fantastic acting clinic from Brian Dennehy, we can play that real quick. A bestseller.
Fuck you. And fuck your hairy friend. Hold it. What? I said, hold it. Jesus, what do you think, you're Al Pacino, huh? Don't break my fucking hand! Break your fucking hand. You're threatening a police officer on the second floor of the Southeast Division, scumbag. I'll kick your fucking goon ass all the way from here to Pasadena and back. You'll be picking that new rug of yours out of the freeway, you fucking asshole. Now spread 'em! What's this? Huh? What's this? I hope you don't have a permit for this.
This man is a licensed private investigator. He has a permit to carry a handgun anywhere in the state of California. The only threat that's been made in this room has been made by you.
Cop on the edge.
Public relations, huh?
You know, it's kind of, you know how they say, like, God, I'm trying to think who I was talking to. Oh, I was, okay. I was talking to Rob Lowe, and
nothing.
We're going to air that later. When are we going to air Rob Lowe?
A week from Monday.
Week from Monday. Anyway, real nice guy, real interesting conversation. But anyway, he was telling me about a movie that he wrote, and that it was a long time ago, but there's some interest in it and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, we're thinking about shopping it back out there, but because of cell phones, we have to change a few things. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. Because all your mystery of being trapped on the train and blah, blah, blah. If everyone has a cell phone, it can hurt a movie that you wrote 23 years ago or whatever.
Of course.
Now that we have HR departments, all that part where everyone roughs up guys and like, come on, pal, take it out in the street, and they like shove their cop against the wall in the locker room and everything. It's all kind of out the window now, isn't it? Yeah. Like everyone would be written up and
with
fired.
Body cams.
Well, first off, if you put your hands on anybody in a precinct or in a gymnasium, it's like, I will sue your ass, dude.
Career's over.
Right. The thugs used to just have to take it. You know, like even if you
Who's
watch,
gonna
like,
believe you and me?
You watch like TJ Hooker and he's like, yeah, thugs like you make me want to puke, punk. And then they punch him in the gut. And then the guy goes, okay, I'll talk. You know, now it's just I'll sue your ass. You're not the boss of me. Give me your badge number. There's no more roughing up and getting information, no getting your point across in a forceful way anymore. Like, everyone would just be screaming, my dad's an attorney and I'm going to fucking sue you.
Wasn't that a recurring subplot in Fletch? Like the cops just stop by the beach and beat up Gummy, the black guy, like just beat him up randomly and then leave.
Oh, Gummy Bear?
Yeah, Gummy. Like the Fletch had a friend. He was undercover, remember, on the beach.
No, I never saw Fletch, but
okay, well,
I know everyone loved Fletch. But they named him Gummy because Huggy Bear was the guy that got the information from in Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, they never referred to him. They never referred to him as Gummy Bear. That makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So in Starsky and Hutch, the black pimp was Huggy, Huggy Bear, and they used to talk to Huggy Bear. By the way, Huggy Bear was named like Antonio Vargas or something like that.
Vargas.
Vargas. And his son went on to play at like USC, I think.
Yep, Justin Fargas played. Justin Fargas was a high school legend. Went to Michigan, broke his leg in like an ugly like kickoff return, like compound fracture kind of thing. Transferred to USC. Played well for a year and actually played for the Raiders and like rushed for 1,000 yards. Like he actually had a decent, like, you know, serviceable NFL career.
Yeah, if you want to know the years, I can go upstairs and ask Lynette, or you can just pull it off the computer there.
Well, she can confirm. I'm fairly confident, but she can confirm the years.
Right. All right. So they called Gummy. I've never seen Flesh. I'm doing the math. They called him Gummy as a joke to Huggy. And Huggy Bear was, you know, when they wrote Fletch, it was probably only 4 years after Starsky and Hutch went off the air. Something
That's interesting.
like that.
Yeah.
So they called him Gummy Bear as a joke. Sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
very astute. Now, if you can explain why they called him Huggy Bear, that would be great.
I don't know. I think maybe Beretta had Rooster. They all had to have some black pimp on the street who they could go get information from.
Right. Sure.
Who somehow liked them. Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, Adam, I know you're a big golfer, so this would probably be good news for you. You and Dennis Quaid share that love. The PGA Tour says it plans to go ahead with the scheduled Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas on June 11th. Despite the cancellation and postponements of other PGA tournaments, including the Masters, the organization believes it will be able to end its the coronavirus shutdown in June in time for this tournament. But if you can't be there to witness it yourself, they'll just have them, you know, walk around and golf on their own, and then they'll live stream it.
The golf, it's one of those things where, you know, like Mike August, who is a nutty golf fanatic that a lot of people don't know of and loves to hit a bucket of balls. One of his laments is like he can't go to the driving range. And for the
Which
guys,
seems like a perfect place to go when you're social distancing.
Well, I know, but I mean, there's all this stuff where it's like, well, it's not the driving range, the clubhouse. Because, you know, once you enter the clubhouse, you have to get nude and it's a Roman orgy in there. And it's like, oh, well, then close the clubhouse. Then close the clubhouse.
Yeah, just outside.
And Mike's like, you go to the driving range, you put your money in a vending machine and a bucket of balls comes out. You're not even dealing with anybody.
Right.
And then he goes, I know, it's really bad. And then he goes, but God, it's getting bad. I've been thrown off at 2 golf courses. And I mean, I said, thrown off of it. He goes, well, I was trying to break in, you know. I was like, he's trying to sneak on to golf courses to play golf. But it is about as fucking solitary as you can get, a driving range or a golf. We should all
actually playing golf.
You are social. It is the essence of socially distancing, you playing golf. And for me, I would like this stuff better if it was a little more nuanced, like where you went like, okay, no going to the disco, but you can go to the driving range.
Right.
The idea of like no disco, no driving range doesn't. It's like when it's when I lose a little faith in government, like when they go, hey, we're gonna make marijuana a Schedule C narcotic the same way as we do PCP. Right. And you kind of go, or whatever they call it. And you go, but it's not the same thing at all. I know, but they're both Schedule 5 narcotics. You know, it's like, well, why do we have labels then? What are we using labels for? Why do we have small, medium, and large? Why do we have manslaughter and murder 1? Why are you lumping pot in with heroin? It's like,
we have a system. We have a system by which to differentiate. You use the system.
Right. And so they go, because we're the government and that's how we do it. And it's like, well, then I'm not going to listen to a lot of what you have to say if this is your system. So let's not lump pot in with heroin, and let's not make a driving range a disco.
And on top of that, you know, while sports fans like us are like starving for any kind of competition or like watch on TV, like I understand the grandstands not being packed, but like golf, tennis, these are sports that we could pretty much start up pretty soon, like, you know, with obvious restrictions, you know, locker room and stuff. But like, yeah, get the tennis players playing, get the golfers golfing.
Tennis is like a game we made up to deal with a quarantine. You go way over there, I'll just hit it. You can't reach me from there.
We have a clip of something we're looking at playing, but it's sort of a mystery to me.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up. So I just got a notification. This may have been tailor-made for me specifically why I got the notification. Maybe you didn't. But apparently there is a teaser available right now for an Angeline movie. It's starring Emmy Rossum. And, you know, there's a lot of mystery around Miss Angeline. I've done deep dives. I believe her parents may have been Holocaust survivors. She's very hard to find information on. I doubt that made it into the trailer. But if we'd like to watch it together, it's just out this second, and it's about 60 seconds long.
All right, let's do that.
So, what are you advertising?
Myself, of course.
Yourself.
Myself.
You want to put up posters of yourself, just you, around the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why not? Nobody's ever done it. Why not start now?
I bet people will talk about this 100 years from now.
The mystery of Angeline has become a media obsession. So, Angeline, what exactly are you famous for?
I'm famous for being on billboards. I am a bright pink light, here to inspire joy.
So, why billboards?
You want to grab people's attention? You have to tease.
What happens now? Now, we wait.
Oh my God.
I'm into that.
I'm so excited.
If it's done well, I'll see. Emmy Rossum's bosom was prodigious in that clip. Do you think she got implants for the movie, or do you think those are CGI?
I think there are ways to do a little movie magic that she didn't go under the knife for that, Brian.
Yeah, I think they went kind of like Mark Wahlberg's honker kind of direction. You know,
yeah.
I do like the theme that emerges with Gina Grad. She's like, well, when I'm not talking about Dolly Parton, I'm talking about Angeline. And by the way, breaking Adrienne Barbeau news, people.
I have a type.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Angeline, I mean, Google, if you're not familiar, she's a California icon, started in the 80s with these billboards. She's still around. You still see her zipping around the valley in a very beat up pink Corvette. A lot of times you'll see it has like that pink there, that tape over the tail light. I don't think the car is doing super well, but very excited about the movie.
Yeah. We saw her when we were filming Road Hard. The scenes I was shooting with Jay Moore in his office, she pulled up behind the little restaurant we're at and was parked there. And somebody like dared somebody to go down there and like talk to her or something. It was a really weird scene. Wait, Max Patty, you have thoughts?
I was there. It was Mike August daring Jay Moore to go, because it's when we were shooting the Jay Moore scene at Road Hard. And Mike August was daring people, and then Mike had his phone out, and she was covering her face with a magazine of her face that was a lot younger than who she was now, and she would just walk around with that magazine covering her face.
It's fantastic.
It is. It's so like poetic and sad, and on one hand, she never, I guess, realized her dream and became a movie star. On the other hand, everyone knows who she is, which is half the reason some people want to be a movie star.
Well, and these days it's like no big deal to say someone's famous for being famous. But what a concept. We'd never heard of such a thing. But what are you famous for? Like, we just couldn't accept it. And now it's par for the course.
Yeah, she was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do stand-up in a few. I'm gonna leave to go do stand-up pretty soon. I want you guys to think. I thought, well, I can't really see sort of doing the act, that seems not inappropriate, but I don't know, feels weird to just be making mother-in-law jokes or something. On the other hand, you don't want to just stand there and talk. Like, on the other hand, you want to do some lockdown humor, some toilet paper hoarding humor, some stuff like the observational stuff that's going on today. And on the other hand, it seems to me that you want to deliver a little message as well, perhaps. Right. Maybe it shouldn't all be stand-up, per se. There's nobody in the audience anyway. Think about think about angles a little bit. I'm literally, when we end this, I'm literally going to pack up my jokes and head over to the Laugh Factory. So I haven't done comedy in a couple of months. I really don't know exactly what the bits are going to be or what it should be.
I have a thought.
I did some coronavirus humor before I left the stage, so that stuff seems to be interesting. I'll tease it, so think about it. Let me hit DC Universe. DC Universe, here to save the day. Watch DC series and movies and read over 22,000 digital comics. Connect with other fans like you and in their engaging community forum. Amazing lineup of original hit series, classic series, and movies, adult animated series, Doom Patrol, Titan, Swamp Thing. God, I was thinking of Adrienne Barbeau. No, she was in The Fog, which took place in a swamp. Anyway, look that one up. And more. Harley Quinn season 2 premieres April 3rd. Get the latest news with special guests and watch DC Daily and tune in to their podcast as well. My son is watching the bejesus out of this. He loves his DC Universe. It's available on Xbox and Roku and Amazon and Google Play and Apple stores and everywhere. You can join the content anytime, right, Dawson?
Yeah, Adrienne Barbeau also in Swamp Thing. Get a free 7-day trial plus 15% off your first 3 months with promo code Adam at checkout. Go to dcuniverse.com/join and use promo code Adam at checkout. Again, that's dcuniverse.com/join. Use promo code Adam at checkout. Valid for monthly subscription. Only expires 5/31/20.
She was in The Fog and Swamp Thing?
She was in Swamp Thing. That I know.
I think you have your material.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just Adrienne Barbeau trivia. I have a thought about that. The 2 headlines from the news that may jog something for you. You know how you talk about doing the time or letting the time do you? Well, 2 headlines I have right in front of me. People binging, of course, more streaming services than ever. The average person is watching a full TV series, the entire series, in 48 hours, which is like sort of record breaking. Also, alcohol sales way up, and now the World Health Organization warning it could be bad in terms of link to coronavirus. It lowers your immune system. Please, everyone, stop binge drinking because alcohol sales are through the roof. So maybe there's a tie-in there of just people going stir crazy and sedating and TV and drinking.
Yeah, there is. As we learned last week, it's easy to do some day drinking. It's easy, and there's many things that prevent you. It's like people who don't smoke, then they just don't smoke during the day or in the evening. But the thing about drinking is the relationship with booze is like, it's not that it's never a good time to drink, while the sun is shining. Right. Au contraire, there's brunch and there's mimosas and there's Bloody Marys and there's tailgating and there's all sorts of stuff. But then mostly the reason you don't drink during the day is there things that sort of dissuade you or prevent you. Like, I got to go to work. I got to drive home from work. I got to pick up the kids. I got to blah, 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 blah. You get rid of all that. Now it's just you, a bottle, a TV set, a ceiling fan, a little U-porn, and a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other.
The angel's drunk.
Yeah.
I like Gina's idea. You mentioned, Adam, doing something like having a message or something inspirational or whatever. Gina's idea of you can do the time can do you. That's a really insightful. Obviously, Garagos quoted that one. But that's a really insightful message. I forget if it was on this show, on the air, or off the air, but this is the time to tell stories, like to tell you, don't tell stories, tell jokes or whatever. Right. It's like, oh no, that plays to your strength. And then maybe something like, the positive side, the upside of coronavirus, the upside of lockdown, the silver linings, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you.
Just something off the top of my head.
Making notes as you speak. Sorry, Gina, go ahead.
All right. So I mentioned that alcohol sales way up, and the World Health Organization really begging people to stop with the binge drinking. But that's not holding water for people in Pennsylvania. Apparently, about a month ago, Pennsylvania closed all its state-owned liquor stores in an attempt to stop the spread of coronavirus. So residents started driving to neighboring states to get their alcohol. Well, now Ohio and West Virginia have put a stop to that. Shoppers in 6 counties along the Pennsylvania border can buy liquor in person only if they have a valid Ohio photo ID or a valid active duty military photo. That's according to a statement by the governor. They say any other time we'd love to have visitors from Pennsylvania, but right now it creates an unacceptable public health issue. Pennsylvania reopened its state-owned liquor stores online a few weeks ago, but they are struggling to keep up with overwhelming demand.
Well, the state-run liquor store feels weird to me, doesn't it? I know it's around in certain places, but you know, I don't do a lot of bragging on California, but I will say this: not having state-run liquor stores is nice.
Yeah,
Being able to go into a Trader Joe's and buy a bottle of scotch, a 6-pack of beer, and a bottle of wine, and not have to go to the store that wasn't open down the street that sells wine. And like I said, just like in New York, when I was doing Celebrity Apprentice, I was walking into the Whole Foods, like right there in Manhattan, because you end up cooking a lot, like in your apartment, like you stay in the Trump Tower and you have a little kitchenette, you end up cooking for yourself. And you're walking down to the market and you're getting some beer and you're like, I want to get some wine. It's like, oh, we don't sell wine in here. And it's like, it's confusing. And also, I don't know in 2020 who it benefits. And I'm guessing it's the state or it's something. But whatever it is, it's like the age of consent. There used to be a lot of range in age of consent. And if there's a lot of range in age of consent, you're sort of asking for trouble. Because if you're someplace where it's 13 and you go to a place where it's 18, you're not going to know. They don't tell you that at the airport. You're going to get into trouble.
Welcome to
Maybe
Montana.
in the airport. Maybe actually in the airport. Well, what I'm saying
Why does it sound like your statement to the judge?
Look,
it's so
I'm not
confusing.
a statistician. Yeah, I forgot my wristband that had all the different states on it.
I'm just a caveman.
Yeah. So my thing with liquor is, again, I went to Road Atlanta. I did a race at Road Atlanta a million years ago. We're heading to the track. I was just watching. We're heading to the track on a Sunday. I'm like, stop off at the supermarket. Let's get a 6-pack, you know, and it was all locked up in a cage. Yeah. And I didn't know what to make of it. Like, it's Sunday. We're going to the track. Let's get a 6-pack. No can do. So in this day, I will expand it to the pandemic. We've realized what goes on in Wuhan does affect us now, right? Like, there is no such thing as, hey, countries, experiment all you want with whatever viruses you want, do whatever you want. It's on your own soil. No, it'll make its way here. Everything makes its way everywhere now. I feel the same way with booze and travel. I can't go to, I went to Utah and did a show. I was at the bar. I was like, could I have a martini? They're like, well, you're not going to like our martinis. I'm like, why not? We make our martinis with shampoo. And
so Jew.
and I'm like, why? Like, I know, that's what we have to do. And I'm like, I can't order a mart. Why can't I get a mart? Okay, then give me a boot of beer. Oh, okay. Like, all right. But wait a minute. It's only 4.2. It's 4.0 octane. It doesn't go up to 4.4 until after the solstice. You know, and it's like, what do we need? What year is it? Right. I got here on a Southwest flight. Took an hour and 25 minutes. What are we doing here? Can we just open it up? Just open it up. Just
be nice.
Whatever makes sense. Let's just do it. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, I just had another thought. Do you know if what you're about to do at Laugh Factory is interactive, if you're going to see comments or anything?
I do not think, I have not asked. I do not think that is how it works.
Okay.
They said
because I was going to say you could do
some. Be there.
Okay, because I thought if you were seeing comments, you could do unprepared.
Oh. Well, maybe I'll ask one of the 4 people.
Yeah. Do it. Make sure everybody knows this was not predetermined.
Yeah.
All right. So these checks, people are starting to get these checks, and President Donald Trump's name will be printed on the check that you receive that IRS is sending out to tens of millions of Americans around the country. The Treasury Department confirmed the decision in a statement Wednesday. It marks the first time a president's name has ever appeared on any IRS payments, whether refund checks or stimulus checks, anything like that. Treasury said that the decision to add Trump's name will not delay in issuance of the paper checks, which will be mailed to the people who are set up to receive them. And I think they also said it can't appear on the signature line, but it can appear in the memo line. So there may have been a tiny holdup, maybe not, to make sure Donald got his credit for these checks.
Now, there's going to be something where it turns out that a lot of African Americans are getting the checks and it's stamped vote in front of Trump.
Right.
There's going to be something, right?
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
Somebody's. On the other hand, I'm trying to think, how much are the checks for?
They range, aren't they? Like, depending on kids, if you have kids, it's like 500, 600, 900.
It's kind of catch-22-y because it's going to people who make less than $75K a year, sort of combined household or some version of that.
Yeah, I have to get
which sucks for Rich Whitey because I don't get jack squat. Because I got to tell you, if my son got a check with Donald Trump's name on it and the date on it for $400, I'd be like, you are not hammering that check. I'm going to put that thing in Lucite. Yeah. We're going to put it up on the fucking wall. This will be the best thing this family's produced 100 years from now when you're looking at this old. It'll be like a ticket to the Titanic or something.
Yeah, that's
right.
I was thinking the same thing. Are there people on either side that just think this is so memorable or whatever that they don't cash it, that they frame it?
Wait, you guys know there's mobile deposit, right?
Well, some people are getting direct deposit.
Oh, it's all mobile.
Oh, you mean you can have your check? And
I'm saying you guys know you can take a picture of it through app, and then you can keep.
Well then,
everybody
can eat it too.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
never even think about that shit.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, then everyone's gonna do it, right?
Everyone's gonna keep it.
Put it in the shadow box. So yeah, and while many, just in case you're listening and you're like, well, where the hell's my check? Many Americans received their stimulus funds via direct deposit on Wednesday. Others didn't. And when they tried to use the Internal Revenue Service's tool to track their money, they ran into more frustration. It appeared it wasn't working, overloaded. Some users went to check on the status, and it says, according to information that we have on file, we cannot determine your eligibility for a payment at this time, and then refers you to the frequently asked questions. So an IRS spokesperson said that those messages are popping up because the system is just overwhelmed with people wanting to track this. Luis Garcia of the IRS said, what happened is instead of having an error message or a message saying the system is busy, it just says your information isn't there. That was the default. He said, just be patient, check back later. If you filed last year's or this year's taxes, we have your information.
I saw a tweet from Garrigus, I guess, earlier today, which basically was I think it was an LA Times article saying that Los Angeles was already in trouble financially before this. So I'm not sure why Los Angeles is in trouble. Pre this corona breakout, but we were in trouble pre, and now post. It's gonna
not great.
Get bad.
He was on, by the way, once I got to KFI yesterday, he was on with John and Ken. Garrigus was talking about, what you were talking about with the permits and the restaurants and the fees. And it was funny because I don't know that they generally see eye to eye, but the whole show, John was like, it's like you could be hosting the show, Mark. You're saying the exact thing we say every day. So they finally found some common ground, I think.
Well, the thing about Mark, and he's a great guy. The thing that you have to get over with Mark is he defends despicable people that you don't like, but that's his job to some degree, and it's the system we've created.
Right.
And you don't want this to be some sort of popularity contest where this person did something that we think is despicable and they don't deserve to be represented adequately.
Right.
Like that. look, everyone, I'm sorry, but we have a system, and that is the system. And you can blame guys like Mark all you want, but he's an important part of the system. And you should probably in general just get out of the habit of deciding whether you like a person or not by how they perform their job. I mean, who they defend in the performance of their job.
Well, and it may be a little hypocritical depending on who you ask, because people speak all the time about how you want to make sure that there's adequate and proper justice for an inmate or someone in the prison system and how they get the shaft because nobody's really there to represent them. Well, what about the super rich, famous guys that also need a little extra? We don't like what they're represented.
Well, he also takes on tons of cases that you'll never hear about that are little guys and
not high profile.
No, just some, Armenian kid who's being charged with murder for vehicular manslaughter, essentially, and they're trying to railroad him. And Mark's can't believe that the system is trying to put this 19-year-old behind bars for the rest of his life. And he got into an accident. He killed someone in a car, but he wasn't drunk, and it wasn't exhibition of speed and blah. And they're trying to railroad the guy, and he's in there, and nobody cares. Not sexy.
Well, and
not
Mark
interesting.
doesn't care. Mark doesn't care what you think of him, so he's not promoting it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, and it's kind of a. It's a luxury, but also a real necessity, especially in this time we're living in, to have the wiring that Mark has.
Yeah.
He's able to. A lot of people couldn't function under this barrage of negativity you get when you step out and defend Scott Peterson, or when they make a documentary about you and Michael Jackson, especially when they cook your press conference, where the people that make the documentary actually cook the press conference. And you go from pariah to subhuman by just the cooking of the doc of the press conference.
No, that's a personality trait we should all have.
Well, it's interesting that the two guys, I should talk to Mark Geragos about it, because you talk to guys like Dr. Drew and Mark Geragos are great friends from childhood. Dr. Drew is greatly affected by all the negativity, and Mark is not. And then literally up the street from Mark Geragos' house, or down the way from Mark Geragos' house, is Dennis Prager. And Dennis Prager takes a ton of shit, but Dennis Prager has faith. He's a religious person, so it doesn't bother him. He only his God can judge him, or whatever it is, but he has the faith. So I'm an atheist. I don't care that much. Drew's an atheist. He cares a lot. Geragos seems to have something working for him that it doesn't bother him. But I'd like to talk to Geragos about what it is. He has some like community and some like Armenian heritage and some religion, I think, in there, but I've never really asked how much or why. And I'd be curious. It'd be an interesting thing to explore. All right, let me hit Manscaped. I don't know if you guys know, but it's the Testicular Cancer Awareness Month is upon us. You can support for our show. Comes from Manscaped, best in below the belt men's grooming. That is right. April's Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, and one guy every hour is diagnosed with testicular cancer. So protect yourself. Manscaped and the Testicular Cancer Society have partnered to raise awareness with the We Save Balls initiative, and you can check every month. And if you feel anything or any swelling or anything, talk to your doctor, people. And if you get out the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0, it's waterproof, it's skin safe, it's a trimmer, and it'll get you examining that area a little bit, and we can prevent this scourge known as testicular cancer. So let's get some manscaping going at the Manscaped with the Lawnmower 3.0. Right, Dawson?
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Adam at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com with code Adam. Your balls will thank you.
All right, Gino, one more.
All right. So Bruce Willis has been self-isolating, but not totally alone. He's doing it with ex-wife Demi Moore. But his source says everything's great between the actor and his current wife, Emma Hemming Willis, and their 2 young daughters, Mabel and Evelyn. So the current wife with the 5-year-old and the 8-year-old daughters, they're staying in their LA home. Bruce hightailed it over to Demi's for isolation with them. A family insider denies any friction between Bruce and his current wife, telling People magazine there's no issues. Emma needed to stay in LA with the kids. The source adds, it's not unusual for the former couple to hang out. Demi and Bruce have been best friends for years. They're very close. I looked at 5 articles, read all of them, and the only thing, because I was like, why? Why? I just need to know why. And one article only had this line: it's not clear why the family is isolating together. So I don't know, but he's with them.
I've seen pictures and everyone's in matching pajamas.
Yep.
Now, that's
There's
not
a
a
few of them.
Corolla trait, but
No.
Brian, I bet you and Christy have matching pajamas.
You motherfucker.
I knew it.
We were gifted matching pajamas
Aha.
along with ones for Tessa a year ago by her no good brother. I have not worn the pajamas, but Christy wears them all the time, as does Tessa, and it's adorable.
I know. There's
Yes. Under this roof, we own a set of matching pajamas.
Right.
We just stick with Halloween costumes.
I didn't purchase them, but
when the DEA comes down on the mule at LAX, you don't go, I was gifted this box of heroin and I was just bringing it across the border. I'm not a junkie.
I mean, you can say that, but it won't be a serviceable defense.
Right. I keistered these 6 balloons of heroin I was gifted them.
By my father-in-law.
Yes, they all in the eyes of the law. Or do you possess these items or don't you? And the answer is a resounding
Possession
yes.
is 9/10 of the law, and we are guilty.
I knew it. I was looking. Do you have a picture of all of them wearing like their striped PJs, Max Zapata? I think there's
it's up.
I think there's a picture of them all wearing their matching PJs, which
Holding,
again,
giant forks and spoons and stuff.
It's all adorable. Of course, I'm outraged.
Ours
by
have
it,
mooses on them.
but it's adorable, and I always tell people it's only because I only lash out because I'm jealous. That's all.
There they are.
There they
Green and
are.
white striped pajamas.
Yes, they're all posing, and it's a perfect tableau. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
What happened? Blah, 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 blah. We're here.
You're gonna have to sing.
Gina
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Maybe your flap on your jammies got on your keyboard and obstructed your fingers. That's
probably what happened.
It's a possibility.
Paying closer attention to my matching PJ set.
All right, I want to thank Geico for sponsoring this show. At Geico, you can get your bundle on. You've got homeowners insurance, you got renters insurance. Yeah, you got those. So put them together with your automotive insurance, put them all under one roof, and it's called bundling, and that's how you save a bundle of money at Geico when you bundle. So get the homeowners insurance, get the renters insurance, put it with your automotive insurance, and you bundle at Geico. That's geico.com. Let's see. I want to thank Titus Welliver for what an interesting story.
Right.
Who the hell knew what his dad was up to? Crazy, man. Good sports coming up next. You can go to Amazon and pre-order my book. I'm Your Emotional Sport Animal. We're also just finishing the audiobook as well. So you can get that there and go to Chassis and see all the movies we have waiting for you there, and check out the stand-up on the YouTube page as well. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla and I should say Bosch is up and running on Amazon Prime as we speak. Until next time, Adam Carolla for Titus Welliver and Ball Bryan and Gina Grad saying mahalo. Thanks, guys.